Hey everybody, it's me, Mr. Green. Welcome back. Here's a quick video I'm going to put together, basically just following up on a bunch of random animation industry stories I've covered lately. A lot's happened this week, but at the same time, like, nothing major has happened, but there's just been a lot of, like, mini updates with, like, a bunch of stories I've covered in the past. So let's go over all these mini updates. Let's start with the ongoing Looney Tunes destruction saga, which is what people want to talk about the most. Last week, there was a fucking bonfire of chaos and madness as Zaslav and Ketchup Entertainment fought each other like vicious tigers in a cage over the fate of the Looney Tunes franchise. As Day the Earth Blew Up came out theatrically in the shadow of Zaslav, canceling Looney Tunes on HBO Max and doing everything in his power to torch and destroy the legacy of the Looney Tunes. Now, this week on the bright side, Ketchup Entertainment has decided to keep Day the Earth Blew Up in theaters for a third weekend, which is kind of at this point abnormal, since the average movie only gets a 14-day theatrical run, and now this one has had a 21-day theatrical run. But then again, maybe it is a little bit more normal for a kids' movies, especially since there is no other kids' movie playing, at least as of yet. Now, the movie claimed another victory this weekend by outperforming the next major WB release, The Alto Knights, a movie that I honestly thought would do better myself just when I heard about it initially, as it's a story about Robert De Niro trying to stop an evil Robert De Niro, and I guess it tells the undocumented history of the collapse of the Pennsylvania Mafia or something. I don't know, I haven't seen it, but I would say, though, the two things working against this movie are the fact that its entire cast of actors seems to have an average age of 87, and beyond that, even if that isn't a deal breaker, the movie also apparently received zero advertising, which is kind of weird because people are really bungling advertising in movies. Speaking of advertising in movies, I saw Death of the Unicorn this weekend because it actually did have advertising, and it was alright. Kind of felt like a cheesy 80s horror film in a good way. Paul Rudd had some nice one-liners, though they completely underutilized NoHo Hank, who plays a butler with almost no dialogue. Sunita Mani actually had a surprisingly larger role than him in the movie, and it was extremely hard for me to suspend my disbelief that Paul Rudd gave birth to Jenna Ortega, but I didn't really buy their relationship to the end of the film. But other than that, it's a pretty fun movie. Anyway, this week on the Looney Tunes front, things have been a lot quieter, but there still have been a few ominous moves Zaslav took that made the doom of the Looney Tunes seem furtherly imminent. Now, in something that seems like it could be nothing, it could be innocent, but it actually could be a major sign of the end, Looney Tunes merchandise all over the world was being liquidated last week, with people on Twitter noticing that they found some brand freaking new Bugs Bunny dolls like you would buy at Six Flags just washing up in dollar stores and other resellers like Five Below all over the country this weekend. Now, it could be a coincidence, but I don't know. With all the data, it just seems like this is another indicator that Zaslav is piece by piece dismantling the entire Looney Tunes business until there's nothing left. And that brings us to the next big piece of the dismantling that we do know about. It's that Zaslav intends to destroy the Looney Tunes building on the Warner lot. So yes, the Looney Tunes were originally created at the famed Termite Terrace, a small termite-infested building that sat beneath the iconic WB water tower. Of course, though, because it was infested with termites, the city of Burbank eventually had the building condemned near the end of the 1940s, so the Looney Tunes got a new non-bug infested building, which was Warner Building 151. So news broke on late Thursday that Zaslav now intends to burn Building 151 to the ground, despite the intense history of it, so HBO can have a little bit more space for parking or some bullshit. I don't know, maybe they'll cut a coffee maker there. Now, online, the backlash was once again severe, and that was kind of it. But then, in a surprise move Saturday, several Warner employees actually went rogue and decided to stage a mini, slightly cowardly protest by covering the building in sad paper signs that complained about how messed up this is. We also got people online commenting that if they're going to blow up this building, why not just blow up the whole studio or the Warner Tower where the Warner brothers live? But nonetheless, people are pissed about this, and that's basically everything going on with that situation. I guess it's worth pivoting to the Tiny Toons real quick. Tiny Toons Looniversity and Jellystone finished airing on Max and Cartoon Network this week. Looniversity was overall a mixed bag of bad to sad because it completely changed the characters, personalities, backstories, and dynamics from the original Tiny Toons almost entirely for the worse. I had so many issues with the show. I might do one more video about it someday. I initially covered the Drag Queen episode, which was leaked by a leaker. That episode was mega cringe. I think the only episode that might have been even worse than that was the Elmira episode, where they brought Elmira back with a weird kind of creepy 30 Shades of Grey subplot. Maybe I should review that one now that the show is over, because that was kind of maybe the worst episode. Jellystone, on the other hand, was kind of a hit, and it seemed to resonate with people, and it had some pretty excellent episodes all throughout its run. But once again, both of these shows were pretty much canceled unceremoniously, and some people don't even know they exist because modern Cartoon Network is such a strip mine of disposable content, and nothing is fucking talked about anymore. All right, so that's all the Warner Brothers / industry news. Moving over to the AI side of things, there's a few like mini AI stories that are worth covering. I did a video recently about Amazon contemplating switching anime dubbing to AI and experimenting with dubbing certain Spanish movies with AI. Overall, I conclude that the technology just wasn't there yet. Netflix is apparently now jumping into that arena as well. They posted that they're hiring a job that pays $720,000 a year, close to $1 million, for a single AI expert to join their company with the singular motivation of putting all voice actors out of a job and replacing them all with AI dubs of the original foreign actors speaking English. I just don't like this. The way they're going about it is incredibly sleazy. At the same time, in the English voice acting community, there's been another mini fight springing up. I'm not going to get too into the specifics of who's fighting who, but certain video games laid off their original actors and replaced them with newbies who got paid less because the original actors were pro-union and anti-AI, and maybe they were asking too much money. It's a big argument and a big shitstorm. We have various trolls and knights attacking actors on both sides of the stance, or the new actors for stealing the jobs from the old actors, or the old actors for not just like caving into the companies. It's a complete mess on both sides. Look into it if you care. I don't have a horse in that race. In further AI news, back to the Ghibli wave. The Ghibli wave almost ended when Trump started using it to villainize illegal immigrants, specifically this one old lady in a hairnet who was deported for dealing fentanyl. Then at the same time, someone put out a fake Ghibli lawsuit cease and desist. I ironically instantly knew it was fake because it uses an old 555 number like an old 80s movie. It was kind of worth it to witness a couple of AI bros have absolute spoiled man-baby breakdowns from thinking that their game was over. But weirdly, after the cease and desist started going viral, ChatGPT then stopped making the Ghiblis for a few hours, which seemed like a glimmer of hope, except then Sam Altman claimed that this was just a technological hiccup because so many people were creating Ghiblis at the same time that it was actually causing ChatGPT's server to melt down from extreme over-graphic processor use. So that's all great. And yeah, then more celebrities and more reputable business have been jetting stupid Ghiblis and getting a lot of lashback from people who are like already sick of it all. We finally did get a reaction out of Studio Ghibli though, but they issued an absolute strange and incoherent response. My only read on this response is that maybe they have a massive misunderstanding of what's going on or what even the question asked was. This honestly doesn't seem like they're even like aware of what's going on. Meanwhile, in one of the most unhelpful tone-deaf statements ever, Bill Gates issued a "Don't worry, AI will take everyone's job someday" declaration. So yeah, don't worry, AI will take your job no matter what your job is. It's inevitable. Resistance is futile. And meanwhile, on the AI video front, WB, Sony, and Paramount have decided to band together to decide if they can't stop people from making AI videos, then they're just going to copyright strike and demonetize the fuck out of anyone using AI slop videos trained on their movies. Now, I'm about 50-50 on this one for what it means, because it will hopefully have an effect on stupid copyright content farms on YouTube and stop them from wasting people's times making clickbait content for babies. But I am a little bit worried that this could eventually bleed over and eventually strike fan content and fan films. But the way it's phrased right now, it seems like it's a good thing that even if they're not shutting down the AI, they're at least going to punish people for using AI, I guess. Okay, lastly, I want to end this video on something good and hopeful because most of these stories are completely depressing. Does anyone remember The Critic, a little adult-oriented animated series from 1994 starring John Lovitz? It was made by a bunch of veterans from The Simpsons who wanted to do something more serious and kind of really broke ground in pop culture for being the first animated TV show to make fun of movies, something before that had only ever been done by like the Muppet Babies. The show was originally supposed to be a straight Simpsons spin-off starring Krusty the Clown and revealing the behind-the-scenes nature of the Krusty the Clown show, kind of a Larry Sanders show, kind of look at Krusty and his day-to-day life. But the show eventually morphed into something greater as the main character was swapped from Krusty to a loser New York film critic named Jay Sherman, and the rest was kind of history. So yeah, The Critic was kind of one of the best shows ever made, and it was pretty much the best thing John Lovitz ever did with his life. In 2000, they briefly brought the character back as a web cartoon critic who did 3-minute shorts where he only dissed the most popular movies of the year 2000. The only episode of this I remember was he really dissed the shit out of Pokemon the movie 2000, and that kind of officially killed the character, but every once in a millennium, he would appear as a background character in The Simpsons. Anyway, so yeah, the good news here is that this weekend on Friday, they announced that there is a real chance now the character might return in some capacity for hopefully a real reboot of The Critic, a Critic Season 3 set maybe 20 years later or something. There's been a lot of this going on. There's also been talks that they're trying to bring back King of the Hill and do an adult Bobby story. Either way, I'm down for that. I guess it would be straight to Hulu Plus or Disney or something, but apparently the show's original producer, Al Jean, thinks it's the time to do it. So there's this weird momentum campaign online to try and manifest the show into existence by showing that there's a demand for it there. So yeah, if you want to see Critic Season 3, go on Twitter and show Al Jean that the demand is there. All right, that's what happened this week. I'll try to get back into my normal rhythm this week and try to do some more random videos. Although I do super need to make something artistic and important for myself and my future and for episode 2 of the Mutant Busters. So that's what I'm working on. Go watch episode 1. Thanks. Have a good week. Good night.